60 Minutes Rewind.
8 days from now, 1 million people are expected to line the streets of Boston to watch 36,000 runners compete in the world's oldest and most prestigious marathon. The memory of the bombings near the finish line of last year's Boston Marathon is still fresh. And next week, the race promises to be unlike any other in its 117-year history, a chance for the city to come together and reclaim a beloved tradition that was torn apart by an act of terror. There hasn't been an American winner, male or female, of the Boston Marathon in almost 30 years. Kenyan and Ethiopian runners now dominate the sport. But this year, an American woman named Shalane Flanagan has a very real chance of winning the 26-mile race. She's only 5'4" and 102 pounds, but don't be fooled. She's been called a ponytailed assassin in knee socks. She also happens to have grown up in Boston, which makes her next week's hometown favorite.
Maybe it's just a Bostonian thing, but I was really genuinely just pissed off that someone would ruin what is such a celebratory day and a historical moment with that kind of action.
You were angry.
I was angry. I was really pissed off that that someone would do this. It's like it was a personal attack to my city.
Shalane Flanagan has been running in her city since she was a teenager. She grew up in Marblehead, a nearby suburb, and though she lives in Portland, Oregon now, she frequently returns to Boston to train along the marathon route.
It's my ultimate dream and goal to win the Boston Marathon. I am all in with this training. I have been out on the course training on it multiple times this fall, and I know almost every divot and bump in the road.
The Boston Marathon has been a part of Shalane Flanagan's life since she was a child. Both her parents were marathon runners. Her father ran 11 minutes off world record pace at the Boston Marathon in 1980. Her mother set a women's world marathon record in 1971.
I thought everyone's parents ran. I thought everyone got up and went to the, Sunday long run.
You thought everybody's parents did that?
Yeah, I thought it was like Church of Sunday long run. Everyone,
Church of Sunday long run.
That's what my dad would call it.
Long before she ever thought of running the Boston Marathon, Shalane used to stand near the finish line of the race to cheer her father on.
I watched from Hereford all the way down to the finish, and that's exactly the two areas where the bombs went off. So it was a surreal moment to think of. I was a little kid watching my dad run right there. I mean, that easily could have been me or my sister.
When the bombs exploded last year, 3 people were killed. 264 others were injured. The youngest victim was 8-year-old Martin Richard.
To see the young bodies lying there on Boylston Street, it's something that I'll never get out of my mind.
William Evans is the new Boston police commissioner. He's also a competitive runner. Last year's marathon was the 18th he'd run in Boston.
To have just come down that street an hour earlier with such excitement, such joy, and then to return again, I just didn't believe that could happen on Boylston Street in the city of Boston.
Commissioner Evans wanted to run again this year, but decided he should stay in the command post to oversee security.
You're going to see 36,000 people on that course with the same principle. And let's prove that we won't be intimidated by what happened back in April.
The race this year for a great many people will be about that. It will be seen as a response to terror, as a statement of resilience.
Tom Grillick is the executive director of the Boston Athletic Association, which has organized the marathon throughout its long history.
The event will go forward as what it has always been, both an athletic competition focused on excellence and a celebration around here of a great event in our community.
This year, he believes more spectators than ever will be on the streets cheering on the runners.
They want to take part.
They want to take part. If you're out there as a spectator and somebody comes along and their T-shirt says Carly on it, 1,000 people along the way will say, "Go, Carly!" And everybody will have a good time.
Carly will suddenly have thousands of new friends.
Carly will look wicked happy.
Most runners in next week's marathon will just be happy to finish or reach a personal best. But for Shalane Flanagan and the other top runners, the goal is winning. And the race is as much about strategy and psychology as it is physical conditioning. Obviously, marathons are painful, but for you, it's about being able to deal with pain yourself and also inflict pain on others. That's part of strategy.
Yes. You know, when I start to feel fairly uncomfortable, it's all about embracing it and realizing it's inevitable.
Embracing
it, yes. So if I'm uncomfortable, I usually know my competitors are uncomfortable. If they're straggling behind, that's kind of the time when I say, I'm going to put the screw in. I can tell that they're either struggling mentally or physically. So I'm going to just push it and just see if I can break them.
This is going to sound like an odd question, but do you like inflicting pain on your opponents?
I think everyone who's got a competitive bone in their body, to a certain degree, enjoy seeing a little bit some of the having their competition fall apart.
When Shalane started running in high school, there wasn't much strategy to her racing.
I would run so hard that I would literally make myself collapse.
I've heard you refer to it as kamikaze racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Kamikazes don't end up very well.
I know, but sometimes it could be brilliant.
Shalane was a champion cross-country runner in college and won a bronze medal in the 10,000-meter race at the Beijing Olympics. But to compete in the marathon, she needed to learn a whole new way to run. In 2009, at the age of 28, Shalane moved to Portland, Oregon, and began working with coach Jerry Schumacher.
So we're going to do 2 loops, which is a little over 24 miles. And I'm prepping her to learn how to run 26 miles without blowing yourself up.
Which she had never done before.
Which, yeah, because she likes to go out and she likes to suffer. And in a marathon, if you're suffering at mile 3, you're probably not going to finish. All right, good.
Running is Shalane's full-time job. She's sponsored by Nike, which allows her to focus solely on training for the Boston Marathon. She often runs twice a day, up to 120 miles a week. In addition to lifting weights, she has to rigorously monitor everything she eats. Food is fuel, but she doesn't want to gain any extra weight she'll have to carry in the marathon. Watching Shalane and other top marathoners compete, it's easy to forget just how fast and how far they're running. Last year's female winner of the Boston Marathon, Kenyan Rita Jeptu, closed her final mile at a pace of 4 minutes and 50 seconds. To finish a marathon running at 4 minutes and 50 seconds per mile, that's incredible.
It's incredible. After 25 miles of running, you have to be ready, even if it takes just that last mile, you know, to do whatever, you got to do whatever it takes to get into that finish line.
Yeah.
To get a sense of just how fast Shalane runs during a marathon, we decided to try to keep up with her on a racetrack at Nike headquarters where she trains.
This is like a real race.
This is a real race.
Shalane would run a quarter mile at her marathon race pace, and I would run as fast as I could, trying to stay with her. So you're going to go for your marathon pace,
Yes.
and I'm
We'll
going to...
see if you like that pace or not.
Jerry started us off.
Ready, set, go!
I jumped out front at first, but within a few seconds, Shalane, with her even pace and easy flowing stride, blew right past me, laughing all the way. She completed the quarter mile in about 79 seconds.
Almost there!
Oh my God.
Keep in mind that to complete a marathon, you'd have to run that distance 104 more times.
Did you feel me suffering out there?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Do you hear those giggles? That was pure joy.
you were giggling, yes.
Shalane's first marathon was in 2010 in New York City. Remarkably, she came in second behind Kenyan Edna Kiplagat,
And it's Shalane Flanagan.
completing the 26.2 miles in 2 hours and 28 minutes. It was the best finish by an American woman in New York in 20 years. What did that tell you?
She can run the 26 miles, she can do the training for it, and in the right kind of race, she's going to be definitely dangerous.
The story will continue after this.
Last year, Shalane ran the Boston Marathon for the first time. Early in the race, she and the other top women were running 6-minute miles, a relatively slow pace. When Kenya's Rita Jeptu finally picked up the pace in the last few miles, Shalane's legs couldn't keep up.
Boston has this really fun way of trashing your quads. As much as you tell your legs to respond and to pop off the ground, and like as much as you want it spiritually and mentally, if your legs don't have it, they don't have it. You can't, there's nothing you can do. Like, I try to talk to them, like, legs, you have to keep moving, you have to turn over, you need to be coming and giving me more energy, but if it's not there, it's not there. It's not much you can do.
You're actually talking to your legs.
Oh
while you're
yeah, I
running.
have talks with them. Yeah, I'll look at my quads, I'm like, come on, you can do this. And so, I mean, no one sees that.
Do they respond?
No, they're usually like, hey, screw you, you know, we've been running for a long time.
Shalane finished 4th, and after the bombings, was the first runner to sign up again to compete this year. For the past 12 months, she's been focused on this one race, memorizing the marathon route in Boston, running long distances in Portland, and running at high altitude in the mountains of Arizona. All of it, every mile, dedicated to returning to Boston in peak form and winning the marathon. To you, winning the Boston Marathon would be bigger than winning an Olympic medal?
Yeah, you could say, here, Shalane, you have an Olympic medal, or you could win the Boston Marathon. A no-brainer to me would be winning the Boston Marathon.
Why?
It is personal. It's where my inspiration started. It's where I fell in love with running.
What would it mean for a local person, someone from Boston, won the women's race?
It would be super, it would. It would just signify how resilient this community is and how hard someone would train to make sure this was special for everyone. So we'll go crazy.
The people who line the road certainly know any local runner who is there, so they will all know Shalane.
Do you think there are going to be a lot of people on the sidelines cheering for Shalane?
I think there will be a great many people on the sidelines cheering for
Shalane.
Go Shalane, go Marblehead.
She'll need all the support she can get. Last year's winner, Rita Jeptu, will also be running again next week. Is Rita Jeptu beatable?
I believe so. Anyone is beatable. You know, Rita Jeptu is a phenomenal athlete, and I really admire her, but I know that on any given day I can beat her.
Beating Rita Jeptu and her other opponents may come down to personal motivation, Shalane's anger and heartbreak over what happened in Boston last year.
It's probably not a day that goes by that I don't think about the events that unfolded there.
Did that add to your desire to run this year?
Absolutely. After what happened with the bombs and everything that unfolded, it just gave more meaning and more incentive to pour everything I have into winning it.
A few months ago, we accompanied Shalane on one of her final practice runs along the Boston Marathon course. Despite all her rigorous training, her constant study of the physiology and psychology of running, when it comes to the Boston Marathon, Shalane Flanagan isn't immune to a little superstition.
I don't cross it.
As many times as you've practiced in Boston leading up to this race, as many times as you've run on the actual course, you have yet to actually cross the finish line.
I've only crossed the finish line once.
Last year?
Last year.
During the race?
Yes, and I haven't done it in practice, no. So I'll save that for the day, for the real race.